You're listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson, the podcast that tells you what it really takes to build a business and the simple steps to get you there. I'm determined to share with you the reality of easy, simple business marketing tips to make passive income so that you can start making money online. Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. There's a lot going on in the world right now, isn't there? And I think one of the things that we really need to talk about is resilience. Resilience is one of those things that you need, not just in business, but in life as well. It's been one of the things that has got me through so many periods of my life where I struggled to cope with things, but my resilience is always the reason that I have been able to carry on. So I've brought an expert in for you today. So I'm here with Bev Cripps. Bev is a resilience expert. She's also a clinical hypnotherapist. So she's somebody that knows how we can deal with this world as it is right now. So welcome to the podcast, Bev.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you.
No worries. So let's just have a chat about, first of all, why you have got into this area. I know a few things have happened in your life that have made you realise how important resilience is. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, my day job is being a criminal barrister. And I think one of the first episodes that I had a couple of years ago was where I really needed to dig in. Was I'd been doing some really significant trials. My dad was really ill. He lived in Wales and I was living in London at the time, so I was commuting back and forth. My then partner was a serving soldier in Afghanistan, which was, quite nerve-wracking, as you can imagine. And also then, unfortunately, my very best friend got diagnosed with cancer. And I just realised then, the realisation happened when I went to the doctors, actually, because on top of that, somebody had driven into me. And so I had to go and...
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I said to the doctor, I'm having a bit of trouble sleeping, quite unconsciously. And he's asked me what was going on. And it was the look on his face when I told him. And he said, yeah, of course you can have some assistance to sleep. And would you like any more? And I was like, well, no, it's fine, because when we get into all the doing of life, do things, and we tap into this resilience that we've got, but we don't realize it. But you can get to the point where the glass is really full.
Yeah.
And I think you don't realize. And sadly, Dad went on to pass away, and life carried on. But I think where I got a really big full stop was Mum was living in Wales. She wasn't too bad, but I was still working, still commuting. And there came a time when I thought, and this was 2019, I better go and let's see. My brother was there and he's brilliant. But, I wanted to sort of be more secure about where she was.
Yeah. Because
she was living on her own. And I went there, and the day I went, I had 2 weeks off after a hectic year. And the day I went, she had a heart attack. And then she went from there off a cliff on dementia, and she died in the December.
So that's like 3 months later?
Yeah. And I was with her throughout that. I'd stopped work. There was no question of doing that, because I tried to work before when bad things had happened. It doesn't work.
No.
And so my brother and I were packing up the house to sell, and it was a lot. And I really feel for anybody whose parents are in that situation. It's just awful. But so that was that, and life is going to start again, except of course COVID happened. And right at the beginning I got COVID. So I was in my mum's house on my own. My brother was living in the same town, but I was on my own, and nobody knew what was going to happen then. It was going to be 3 weeks and it was all over, and then we all realized it wasn't. And I think, having gone through all that, it just finally caught up with me and hit me. And I think that's the closest I've ever come to the glass over spilling for good, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
And so what I did was I put in place, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time, I put in place things that I did every day on a daily basis that kind of just grounded me, because it's difficult to imagine now when apparently COVID's over, according
Yeah,
to
we'll
some
see.
people. Yeah, exactly. It's difficult to imagine now what it was, but I think, like the cumulative effect of all that trauma and stress had just sort of like landed with me. But as I say, instinctively, and I don't know why, but I just did these things and I made sure I did them every day. And I don't know what you're like, but I'm a great sort of lister and ticker of things
I
off.
am
So
too.
I was seeing those rows of ticks and I was thinking, God, I still feel that, but I know I'm doing something positive for myself. And then I went on to do a lot of research about it, because you'll know this or you'll remember this.
Being a
Quite
barrister.
evidence-based. Yeah, and you being a bit of a lawyer as well.
Yeah.
So we're quite evidence-based, aren't we?
We are.
So I went and had a look around, and actually some of the things I'd been doing as I did my research were actually recommended under the sort of science of resilience. And what I liked about it was all about growth. It was all about thriving and growing. And if I can carry on, if you don't, sorry if I'm
No,
talking,
carry on.
us lawyers can't shut us up. But what I'd noticed over my time in work, because as I say, I'm a criminal barrister, so I both prosecute and defend. And what I'd noticed was that, people were living for a very long time with trauma and problems. And I was just, they come to court and hopefully, they get some sort of ending for that. But I just couldn't, there were the two things, I just didn't want them to suffer anymore. And I was just thinking, what modalities can I go to just to help people come on? And with resilience, a lot of it was trialed in the US Army, because there'd been a really enlightened female, just happened to be lady general, who just didn't want, they had so much post-traumatic stress issues and suicides with veterans, and she brought in positive psychologists to just build these trainings.
It is about strategy, isn't it? It's about strategies. Going back to you being a barrister. So do you think, you were a criminal barrister, so the things that you would have heard during doing that must have been, you'd need resilience just for that, I think.
I think we do. But I think, it's like any job that, which is a bit stressful, like nursing or medicine, or, what have you. You get your professional veneer. And this is what helps you override things like having a father who's dying and a partner in Afghanistan and still doing your work, because you just do that.
You just put that head on. But did you ever go home and did any of it affect you after, you get home from the job?
I think you don't actually, when you're in the middle of it and you're doing it, you're professional. Yeah. And I think it's only when afterwards, when the cases are finished, when you kind of, then it sort of hits you that you have been a bit more stressed than you would have been normally. And of course you're thinking about it, because, these are people, it's people's lives.
They're people, yeah. I wonder whether because of your background, that's why you have been so great at resilience and why you kind of naturally did things that others learn to do. With the world as it is right now, we've had COVID, we're now talking war. I haven't switched on the news for over 2 years now and not seen horrific things, whether it be hospital beds with COVID, whether it be fighting in the streets because of vaccine mandates, or whether it now be, people fleeing Ukraine. How do we, as just, ordinary people having businesses, going about our lives, become more resilient to be able to cope with this? I know many people who got through COVID and felt like, I've got through COVID, now it's time to start again. And now this is happening and it's destroying them. They're not, they're not even part of it. They're not even there. They don't have relatives there, but it's really affecting them on a day-to-day basis to know that this is happening because of the fear of what could happen.
Yeah, this is what I'm really want to get the message out there about at the moment. It's because it is possible to ground yourself when the ground is moving underneath you. And as you've just pointed out, it's not just this thing. We had 2 years of living in the most unprecedented times. And however much we get on with it and smile and be the businesswoman or be the professional or be the mum or what have you, this has an effect on us. And what I'm trying to do is to sort of send a message here that by doing very small things, because of course we're working, or I'm working with, and you're in the environment of people who are working full tilt, who've got families at one end, who've got parents who are not as well as they could be at the other end. So what I'm looking at is very small things that you can put in place when you haven't got time even. So just to ground yourself. So like in the morning, just to have a routine. Now you think, well, people think, well, that's all right, Bev, but you haven't got to get up, with the kids and blah, blah, blah. But what we have got is that little time, that little space in the morning when, instinctively, many of us now, maybe you don't do it, I do, where you reach for your phone and you start scrolling. Well, you can use that. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I relapse back, I must say, but particularly with the news. But having that, carving out a bit of calm for yourself, 10 minutes in the morning, just get up, have a glass of water, and just sit. Have a cup of tea, and just sit and breathe, and just have that little space. And you would be surprised, because a lot of my clients who are very much, full on, full tilt, just by doing that one thing in the morning and the regularity of doing it is the thing. That's the gold. Have a glass of water every morning. Well, what's that going to change? That's not going to change the world. What it does, though, is it's a very simple thing you can do every morning to start rewiring a habitual action, your neural pathways, and to bring a sense of calm just for 10 minutes. And we can all do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So simple things like that to build into your day. And of course, underlying that, there are other things that we can learn and we can teach and we can coach. And that's what I want to sort of bring out as well. But, you're dealing with people like you, like me, like everybody probably who's listening to this, who doesn't really have a minute because they're full tilt. And so having a pause, and there's a really lovely thing to do at the end of the day. And this is all scientifically based. Listen, if Navy SEALs do this, we
can do it.
and it's beautiful, and it's lovely if you've got kids as well. Even truculent teenagers go for this. It's 3 good things at the end of the day, just before you go to bed.
I do this. I do this now.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Because you can, before that, if you like, you can do your download a bit of an hour before. So if you've got a lot on your mind, just get it all out on paper, but give yourself an hour break in between. You can also do your fabulous list for tomorrow, so it doesn't have to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and to remind you what you're doing. But end the day on this. And I found doing it with children, it's lovely. It's a nice little ritual.
It's what we do with the kids. We do a grateful list. So we do something we're grateful for at the end of the day.
It is lovely, and it's a small thing, but it puts you to bed in a mode where you have got all the what's it of the day down on paper, so you don't have to worry about that. You know what you're going to do. You don't have to worry about that. And then you just go to sleep with the best intention.
And that's what it's about. It's about, a lot of it's about routine, isn't it, when it comes to resilience? Because when we feel chaos, so I used to, when the business was really, really busy, so like when I'm mid-launch and there's lots going on and maybe things are going wrong and my health hasn't been great the last couple of years. So when everything sort of feels all upended, the thing that I instinctively do is, especially in the summer, I take my shoes and socks off, I walk out of the house and I walk on the grass. And that's it. I just walk on the grass. And I started doing it as a routine. Every time I felt a bit like there was too much going on, or I was getting stressed, or my cortisol, when you can feel your cortisol levels going high because there's too much happening, to relax me, to make me feel more resilient, like I can do this and carry on, I'd go outside and I would root myself to the earth. And I'm not I'm not a woo person, but it helped. It massively helped me because it grounded me and it made me be able to breathe just for a while before I went at it again for the next kind of bit.
Well, that's it. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. You literally grounded yourself. And that's, it's an amazing place to start, isn't it? And
Yeah.
knowing, I mean, I had a bereavement sadly in the family a couple of weeks ago, and it really emphasized to me sort of how far I'd come, because I just got up that morning, and yeah, of course it's really upsetting, but I just got up that morning and I did what I was doing and have been doing since those dark times. And it's comforting.
Because
It
it's
doesn't take
known.
away.
No, of
Yeah.
course it doesn't. It doesn't take away the bad stuff that's happening, but what it does is it gives you something that you know you can do every day. I've heard about this before, about people who, if they've been through traumatic experiences, giving themselves a routine of 3 to 5 things that they do every single day that they know are coming. So it doesn't matter what else happens in the day, or if they get thrown off, they've got these routines that they still do, so that they feel like they've been productive, I guess, in some way, and they've helped themselves in some way to move forward. Because sometimes it really is about getting to the next day.
Yeah, yeah. And if that's all you do, I mean, even going back to the simple glass of water, if that's all you do that day when it's the worst day, at least you've still done something for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all about, particularly with the people, the ladies and the gentlemen I've worked with, and I'm talking about on both sides of the fence here, both as defendants, because some of them haven't got the best backgrounds, and are also, so-called victims, but survivors of offences, and people who've undergone significant trauma and are upset, whatever. All this resilience is about, and all this positive psychology training is about, is growth. And the message is, however bad it has been for you, you are 100% survivor. And so therefore you have got things within you that indicate very well for you to grow. And that's what we're working with here on perhaps a very significant level. But, for anybody who is having any sort of, trauma in their life, or bad experiences, if we don't want to call it that, then, they also have that right to know that they can grow and move forward. Because I remember a couple of years ago, I can't remember what world event was happening, but it was nothing like
Nothing like now. We
nothing
thought
like
it was
now.
back
It was
then.
like, oh yeah, it was like, oh, in the good old days of Brexit,
Yeah.
we sort of say. And I remember somebody was talking, and I was like, well, how on earth do we do this? How on earth can we get, how on earth we as a people can, things are out of control. And that person said, you have to begin with yourself. And that's your foundation. And I thought at the time, I have to say, what a load of rubbish. But
but it's so true.
True.
It really is. I remember just my own story, that when the bullying was happening, and I've been through a lot of different types of adversity. And when I look back, it all starts within you. Like, you can decide if that adversity is going to affect you and how it's going to affect you. You get to decide whether you're resilient or not. I don't think it's something that's innate in people, or it's not. You get to decide how resilient you are and how you're going to strengthen that resilience. And my views on, I massively believe that adversity can actually fuel your success. It can show you that if you can get past that, then you can actually be anything you want in life and do anything you want in life. And resilience is a part of that. I think to be a business owner, even with nothing else going on in the world, to be a business owner on its own, you need resilience now.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think as well with, those horrible experiences you had, I think what you've just described, as well as, giving you that impetus, giving you that strong foundation, because as I said, you were a survivor of that. And you knew you could come through the worst time. One of the things you do, which is kind of really indicated in resilience training and positive psychology, is you take your experience and you then teach about it. You have a why, and your why is very strong in relation to what's happened to you.
Yeah.
By using your negative experiences to help, that has been so well indicated across all the research, because it's taking the gold out of those dark times.
Yeah.
And that's one of the really fundamental pillars of resilience.
So on a final note, if somebody is feeling like they're overwhelmed, there's so much going on right now, they can't turn the news on for feeling awful about things, how are they supposed to carry on in their business while all of this stuff is going on constantly in the world, upending everything? What would be your biggest takeaway for them? What would be your best advice?
My best advice for them is to know that if you go into yourself, there's a quiet place, and you can get there by, as I say, putting in, and it's very repetitious, I know, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
By giving yourself quiet space in the morning, perhaps factoring in some quiet spaces in the day, and it doesn't have to be very long, you can center yourself by breathing and just by concentrating on your breath. There are loads of apps that you can use, or just breathing in and breathing out. We're doing a 4-7-8 breath, and you can tap into you, because we've only got, and this is something I find really inspiring as well. There are only 2 innate human fears, and that's fear of falling and fear of loud noises, and the rest we learn. So if we learn them, we can unlearn them. And just know that essentially you're okay. And just take a bit of quiet, turn down the noise, and just breathe. And that's a good start. And then from then, you can go forward, because it's the only control you've got in times like these is control over yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's the way to start, I would suggest.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Bev. That's such good advice. And it's advice that's needed right now, because so many people are going through so many things. If people need a bit more help and they want to come to you to learn about how they can get inside themselves for this resilience, where's the best place for them to find you?
Well, there's my website, which is mybcconnection.com. Or I've got a Facebook group, I've got a page and a Facebook group, Get Conscious with the Connection. And if you come in there, we do this sort of thing. And there's some free resources, particularly a really nice breathing 7-minute take you out of it, which I'd be really happy that people got, because that could give them a little bit of the breather that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's the space we need. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here.
That's my pleasure. Absolutely.
I will be back next week, guys, with another episode. So I will see you then. Have a good week, whatever it is that you're doing. Thank you for listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson. If you'd like to get hold of my guide to launching, go to lisajohnson.com/launch and let's get you making money online.